Hello everyone, welcome to OpenAGI Forum. We are recording from GoSim Hangzhou 2025, and I'm Eric from CSDN. Today we are honored to have OpenCV CEO Satya Mallick to have a quick interview. So our audience who subscribe our channel know last year GoSim Beijing 2024 we have invited OpenCV founder Gary Bresky to have an interview. So today we will ask Satya for the origin story, and for two founder, one CEO, one founder. So what's the difference with your beginning story and how you met OpenCV? So please first take the brief introduction of yourself, Satya.
Yeah, my name is Satya Mallick, and I'm the CEO of OpenCV.org. And OpenCV.org is the nonprofit that maintains the OpenCV library. This is the biggest computer vision library in the world, as many people are aware. So that's the brief introduction.
I see. So Satya, you have gone from a B2C startup with 100 million users to leading a non-profit for developers. So what's the biggest surprise you learned from the fast-changing consumer world that you now use when working with the more technical developer community?
Yeah, so as far as my background is concerned, OpenCV.org is my charity work, but I also have a consulting company in computer vision and AI. It is called Big Vision. The things that we are noticing there is obviously the techniques that were used a few years back. They are much better now, right? Things have improved, the quality has improved, but the expectation has also gone way up, right? So one of the things that we are looking at these days, people would come to us with no data set and they would expect to solve the problem. And surprisingly, with generative AI, with vision language models, and these techniques, we are able to solve computer vision problems where even the data set is not available. So, the work is much more challenging now, but at the same time, the technology has also evolved. So we are able to solve problems which we were not able to solve just a few years back. It almost feels like science fiction.
See. So you have worked in academia and for-profit startups and now a non-profit. So can you share your story, and each one thinks about money and growth very differently. So can you share your story and how has this experience shaped your strategy for keeping OpenCV financially healthy and innovative without chasing profits?
Yeah, so profits are very important, right? Without profits, we cannot grow. And so the way we have structured OpenCV, we have the nonprofit organization, but we also work with other for-profit organizations to bring revenue in. First of all, we are very thankful to a lot of companies who are gold members, silver members, and bronze members in OpenCV, and they donate money to keep OpenCV free, right? Sometimes we work with companies to enhance their platform. For example, we have worked with ARM so that on ARM platform, OpenCV is much faster. We have worked with Qualcomm so that OpenCV is much faster on Qualcomm platform. So all these companies, they sometimes donate money, sometimes they work with us to improve their platform, and therefore it improves OpenCV as well. So that's a big source of revenue. Then we have partnered with companies like OpenCV.ai, which are for-profit consulting companies, but we license the OpenCV name. So they can use the OpenCV name, but they also have people who work for OpenCV.org, the nonprofit. So there is a licensing arrangement. Similarly, we have OpenCV University. It is, if anybody is interested in AI courses, right, to start a career in AI, then OpenCV University, it provides the best foundation. So we have OpenCV, TensorFlow, PyTorch, etc. And that is also for profit. So those courses, people pay, and the company Big Vision, which actually is responsible for creating those courses, they provide a licensing fee to OpenCV. So this way we can have the library, which is the core structure, completely free, but at the same time we work with for-profit companies, we work with other companies for donation, as well as we have licensing arrangements.
Can you share any, what is the opportunity makes you want to make these things as your career? What makes you want to focus on this career?
So it's a purpose, right? The main thing is that when I was growing up, like when I was a student, I benefited a lot from open source, right?
Yeah.
So most of the tools we used were open source, and when I got this opportunity to contribute back to the open source community, I jumped in. And I also had, even before joining OpenCV.org, I had a website, I still have that website called learnopencv.com, where we publish, every week we publish free articles so that people can benefit from, these are technical articles. It takes us about 40 hours to write a single blog post. And we write this because this is our way of giving back to the community, right? We gained so much from OpenCV library, from PyTorch, TensorFlow, all these free stuff. We gained a lot, and this is our, we are motivated to give back to the community. And that is how, the whole system goes.
So through your website, Learn OpenCV, you are the teacher to so many people.
Yeah.
So has there ever been a time when writing a tutorial made you realize, so hey, this part of OpenCV is actually pretty confusing, so which then led to a real change in the library itself?
Yeah, it has happened several times. So first of all, because I've been writing this for a long time, I noticed that there is a shift, right around 2014, 2015. Things started shifting to deep learning, right? So traditional techniques, even the ones that are very popular, for example, hair cascades for face detection, we had HOG for object detection. So those things are no longer relevant because deep learning modules are much more important. So because of that, in OpenCV 5, we have removed those things from the library, and we are now focusing on deep learning. Whenever deep learning is relevant, we are keeping them. When things are not relevant, we are moving them away from the library. There is something called OpenCV contrib. It is still part of OpenCV, but you have to compile it separately. So we are moving the things that are not used to the library. And this is not just based on teaching, right? Teaching is a big part, but we also have a consulting company, and because of that, we know what things are relevant and what things are outdated, and based on that, it is informing the library also.
Yeah, so your tutorials are great at making complex academic papers easy to understand. So in your opinion, what's the biggest thing that stops amazing research from becoming a tool that everyone can actually use?
Well, it's the incentive, right? So if you think from a researcher's point of view, their incentive is to come up with great ideas and write a paper. Once they have written the paper, the incentive collapses, right? There is no incentive to make it work for the real world, because now they have to work on the second paper and make it, write another publication, which is fine, right? If the role of academia is to produce new things, right? And the role of the industry and even open source communities like us is to select which of those things are relevant, and then we make it production ready, right? Because there is almost like you're playing a relay race. Everybody's passing the baton to the other person, right? And they're moving forward. Similarly, you will notice that in large language models, the researchers who started it, they cannot take it forward after a certain point because it takes a lot of money to do these train these large language models. So they will come up with the theory and what are good ideas, and then the industry takes it forward, right? So it is almost natural because the way incentives are structured, right? In the academia, when a grad student is working on this thing, their incentive is to publish a lot of papers. So, which is fine, and then you take the papers and make it production ready. That is the job of the industry, and that's where we come in.
See. So OpenCV started at Intel to help sell more chips. So it's a clear business goal. So today, as a non-profit in a world dominated by big AI models from companies like Google or OpenAI, so what is OpenCV's main strategic purpose?
So the main thing, we feel that there are certain areas that are best handled by large companies like OpenAI, but there is a ton of other places where OpenCV dominates, right? For example, simple image read-write. So we have the right infrastructure in place to read-write images. If you want to do low-level computer vision like edge detection, you want to do computational photography, stitching, etc., image alignment. Those things, even today, they represent about 30–40% of the work in any computer vision solution. So there is the model that does the heavy lifting, which we can say that 60% to 65% of the work will be done by one or two models, deep learning based models. But then before that, you have to pre-process the image, you have to align the images sometimes. All those things, if you look at the computer vision pipeline, we still need OpenCV for 30–40% of the work. And that's where we dominate, right? And also making things efficient. So on various platforms, if people can simply focus on writing code, not worry about what kind of optimization they need to do, that's where we come in, right? So we are basically bridging the gap, and these are all open source solutions, so we can coexist, right? And the other important thing to keep in mind is that when 20 years back, OpenCV was the only library present, right? We dominated, but the pie was also small, right? Now, there are several players, but the pie is much bigger. And even if we are a small piece of the pie, in the usage of OpenCV is the biggest ever, right? So we are downloaded about 1 million times a day, right? That's quite a lot of usage. So I feel that it's a ecosystem where we will coexist with other players, and we do our part, they'll do their part, and together it will be a very rich ecosystem.
Yeah, I have watched you chat with OpenCV, show the great partnerships. So, but they need very specific things for the hardware, while the wider community might want more general features. So how do you decide what to build? Is there a principle you followed when choosing between very specific needs or very broad ones?
Yeah, so fortunately, whenever we work with, OpenCV is developed by practitioners, right? So they have other work also, right, that they are doing. And what goes into OpenCV is informed by what is useful in the real world, right? When we see that, oh, this technology, this is a new technology that has come in and it is useful for us, we will implement that in OpenCV, right? That way everybody benefits. But most of the people involved with OpenCV, they are not academic. They are coming from the industry. Yeah. So we know what is relevant, what is important, and so that is why that's the thing that goes into the library because it's very developer driven. Uh-huh.
Yeah, OpenCV's license is very permissive. Yeah. So with all the current debates about using AI ethically today, so has the team ever considered a more restrictive license? So for you, what is the most important non-negotiable part of your open source promise?
So the team, we are a very mission-driven nonprofit. We want to make sure that the OpenCV library remains free. We have thought about creating a paid version of OpenCV where it would be almost like a Linux model. You can get the free version, but then the paid version is supported. And in future, we may actually do that, but we want to make sure that the general community, right, the people who use OpenCV, they always get the best version of OpenCV for free. So that's non-negotiable. And now we have to figure out how do we make money around it, right? So there are various options that we work with. And in the future, we may have a supported version of OpenCV, just like Linux has a supported version. Yep. But even the unsupported version would have all the features, right? We are not going to restrict the features.
Yeah, just connected another question. Like OpenCV has been around for over 20 years, and some people might see it as legacy or only for traditional computer vision. So how do you fight that perception and convince new developers to see OpenCV as a modern essential tool?
Yeah, so it has been actually for 25 years.
Yeah.
So this year we are celebrating the 25 years of OpenCV. The way we have evolved is based on where the market is moving. For example, when we supported deep neural networks, right? We decided that we are not going to train deep neural networks, but we will provide the tools for inference, right? And now we are also working with stable diffusion, which is generative AI. We have ChatGPT, actually GPT-2 is implemented inside OpenCV, and you can run a GPT-2 with OpenCV. and very soon we will also have vision language models, etc. So, OpenCV will be slightly behind the cutting edge, because we want to make sure that we pick the tools which are the best. We cannot change, right, very quickly. But once we choose something, we want to support it for the long term, right? So we see OpenCV as something that people, it is like air, right? It is not like, it's only when it's taken away, right? Then you recognize, oh, it was such a beautiful thing, right? So people may not recognize how important the library is until, it's not going away anywhere, but I'm saying that it is because it is so ubiquitous, right? Everybody uses it. That is why people may not recognize the importance of it, but we always try to make it better, right? With OpenCV 5 also things are getting better, and we will be slightly behind, but we will follow very closely how things are evolving. So that's the way we progress.
I see. It's air, water, and electricity. Yeah.
Right.
So do you see the OpenCV community as one big group or many smaller communities of communities? So like robotics, medical imaging, and so on. So how does that change how you lead and communicate?
Yeah, so it is, there are core computer vision people, but there are these sub-communities also. And that has been a big challenge, right? So there are robotics communities, they call themselves perception communities, right? They are inside robotics, right? There are people who do use OpenCV extensively for medical image processing, but we don't, they are a separate community, right? The way we are trying to bridge that is through community activities. For example, OpenCV has OpenCV Live. This is on Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific time, we do a webinar. And we invite people from many different fields to come and join us, right? We talk to them, what are the various things they are doing with the OpenCV library, but also computer vision in general. We also do competitions. So this year we did a robotics competition with Intrinsic, and every year we do some competition or the other. And before that we had done a very big competition with Microsoft and Intel, where we gave away $450,000 worth of prizes, right? So this is the way for us to reach out to different sub-communities so that they can come together and solve interesting problems.
Yeah, in those OpenCV AI competitions, you can see a lot of projects built for edge devices.
Yeah.
So looking at the winners, what's the secret to success? So it is usually a brand new algorithm, or is it more about clever engineering and really understanding the hardware?
So it depends on the competition. So the latest competition we did was a robotics competition with Intrinsic, where the idea was to grasp objects. And this, the code that people submitted, that was run on a real robot to see the performance, right? So that was the final judge of the performance. So in that case, it was algorithm, right? The best algorithm won. But then we have done, in previous years, we have done other competitions where it was a combination. We wanted to see what problem you selected. There, the problem was not very well defined. We would say, define the problem, tell us how you're going to solve it. We will give you a device. We gave away Oak devices. This is a depth camera. And then they built the solution. So what problem they are solving, and then how the problem was solved, and how good the final solution was, all those things were taken into account for those competitions.
I see. So the OpenCV team is spread all over the world. So what's one tool or routine you found that is surprisingly good at keeping everyone connected and moving in the same direction?
Well, we have regular meetings, right? So we have teams all over. We have team in Europe, we have a team in China, we have a team in India, and the US, right? So the best way to do it is we have one weekly meeting. But in addition to that, people also meet separately, smaller groups meet separately, and they work out the problem. So right now, for example, we are working on OpenCV 5, and all the teams are contributing. They have weekly meetings and also smaller meetings.
See. So besides adding new features, the user experience is the key. So what's one part of the OpenCV developer experience, like installation, documentation, or error messages that you really focus on making better right now?
So documentation is a big part.
Oh.
OpenCV documentation traditionally has not been up to the mark. So we with OpenCV 5 we have dedicated people who worked on documentation. They added new documentation. They removed documentation which were not relevant. So that's a big one. Also simplification of the API, because OpenCV has been around for 25 years. A lot of algorithms were implemented and it started becoming bloated. So with OpenCV 5, we have removed many of the algorithms and put them in OpenCV contrib. And finally, there is also a lot of rearrangement of the library. Different modules were not quite in the right place. There was some code duplication because the DNN module was added later. So some of the key functionalities were inside the DNN module, but they should have been inside the core. So a lot of refactoring is being done in OpenCV 5 so that we have a base which can be developed very fast afterwards.
Yeah, so during the 25 years, to managing a huge C++ code base must be tough. So what's your team's approach to technical depth? Do you have special cleanup phases, or do you just try to leave the code a little better every time you touch it?
The technical debt is, it is always big, something that has been around for 25 years. You always have a lot of technical debt, and we do our best to remove it. For example, in OpenCV 5, the C API is being deprecated. Finally, we made a decision that no, it's dragging along. So the C API will be gone. Python 2 support is gone. So a lot of things are being removed because that's the only way to move forward, right? We have to move along, and also some of the code is being refactored completely. So the DNN module, for example, it is a big chunk of code, but it has been refactored completely so that it is much faster. The design has been implemented better. There's something called the hardware abstraction layer, which has been rewritten. So a lot of activities are going on so that we don't have to, we don't have to be indebted to the code behind us, right? We'll move forward, leaving a lot of code behind.
And how do you see the AI coding to solve those technical debt? Because people prefer vibe coding the prototype these days, or AI coding just makes something even worse.
Yeah, so there is this debate going on inside OpenCV. There are two groups. So there are older people, not very old, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about people in their 40s and
professional programmers.
Yeah, professional programmers who have been, who have been the leaders inside OpenCV for a long time. They are not very comfortable with AI-generated code, right? They worry that somebody will write a bunch of code, and the integrity of the library will be destroyed. But then the newer generation of people who are going to take over, they are very comfortable with AI. They say that, okay, why should I write so much code when AI can help me? So there is a transition going on. I think that's true about every company, right? There's a transition going on. People who are very good at, very experienced at coding, and those who can write optimized code also have the most resistance towards this change. And I think gradually it is changing, right? So we have come up with, if all the code that we write, it is, obviously verified during a pull request, right? So, and then, there are some people who use AI and they do an exceptional job of it, because they don't just, they are not just vibe coding like that. They are actually writing very specific pieces of code, writing test scripts around it, and all those things they are taking into account before using it. But I personally feel that, OpenCV contributors should use AI as much as possible, and not mindlessly, but if you are thinking about it as an architect, right, then this is like a junior intern who is helping you. Nothing wrong with that.
So there's another debate, or we can say it's a paradox. So as a leader side,
Yeah.
the staff, when with the AI tools, they will think the AI will get my work time less and more fun time. And the leader might think with the AI, the staff can have more hard working. So it's a become a paradox between these.
That is true. That is true. It is one of those things that, especially people who are responsible for maintaining the library, who are responsible for the pull requests, they get really annoyed when somebody has not taken care.
Yeah.
Using AI is not the problem, right? Using AI mindlessly is the problem,
Yeah.
right? When they did not take care, and they would send pull requests, and now you have to review the pull request, and because not enough effort has been put in, they can send a lot of pull requests,
Yeah.
right, and add a lot of work to your plate. That's actually true, right? So you have to be careful.
I see. So OpenCV has always provided the building blocks, but as AI gets more end-to-end, so do you feel pressure to offer more complete solutions? So for example, instead of just a face detection block, offering a full attendance system. So how do you decide where to draw a line?
Yeah. So we will always be, we will always be. The library itself would consist of building blocks, right? However, there could be, there could be things like when we did, OpenCV, the very first very popular use of OpenCV was OpenCV face detection, because nothing worked as fast as OpenCV for detecting faces, and this was the hard cascade. And so applications are very important, right? But we have to stop at certain places, right? We have to. So the building block can be a self-contained thing, but not a fully developed solution. So for fully developed solution, we work with other companies. For example, we have, for face recognition, we have a company, 7sense, that we work with, and they produce the best face recognition, which is end-to-end, right? All the things that you need around face recognition, they implement, right? So, but OpenCV itself doesn't want to, because each one of them is like it's a company in itself, right? It's a product in itself, and it's not easy to develop every product like that. So we will continue building the building blocks.
See. So just for fun, if you were competing in the next OpenCV AI competition, what project would you be most excited to build yourself if you are attending or the judgment?
So I would build something related to VLMs, vision language models, because they are extremely powerful. We have started using that in our consulting work also. They're extremely powerful because the vision part, an image is worth 1,000 words, right? So the vision part allows us to deeply look into the image, and the language part, it is trained on world, text from all over the internet. So it has world knowledge, right? So you combine the world knowledge with a very deep understanding of the image, and suddenly you can do a lot of things without data. For example, we worked with a company that wanted to take a picture of a grocery store shelf and identify all the products on the grocery store aisle, right? Now this thing would have been impossible before, but now you can actually create a class agnostic object detector. So you detect all the objects without knowing what object it is, and then you can use a VLM to identify what object it is, right? Because it has world knowledge, right? So those kinds of things are extremely interesting. Now that computer vision earlier was only, you could only work with something you had trained on, but now when it's combined with language models, it becomes magical.
Yeah. We have talked about Edge AI and VLM, and you can all find them in the GoSim. So generative AI is changing everything about the pixels. So for a library that has always been about analyzing pixels, so what's the most exciting opportunity now that we can create pixels so well? So we're creating synthetic data become a major feature in OpenCV?
So generative AI, we are supporting generative AI. For example, stable diffusion models we can now run inside OpenCV. And I feel that it is going to be very important, not just for vision applications. Earlier, it was analysis. We were only doing the, reverse problem, right? Where you look at the pixels and analyze what needs to be done. But now it is all combined, right? Like even when you train a model, there is a chance that you may not have enough examples, and you would use a generative model to come up with the data for doing this. And that is why we feel that both, so AI is moving in a way where it is multimodal. So OpenCV also needs to become multimodal, which we are working towards, right? So we have generative AI, stable diffusion, but we also have GPT-2 support. So we are progressing in that direction where we will have enough generative AI as well as traditional computer vision methods.
So looking at the open source AI world, there's a lot of energy, but also a lot of people building the same things over and over. So what do you think is better for the future? A few giant open source projects or an ecosystem where many smaller specialized libraries work well together?
I feel that, let the giants, right? The giants, if there are like 10 giants working on these things, they will compete among themselves. And because they want the users, they will give away a lot of things for free. That is what is happening, right? So, for example, OpenAI is leading on the closed front, but then Facebook or Meta, they want to compete with them, and they basically are open sourcing a lot of things, right? DeepSeek, it was an open source model, right? A lot of stuff from Alibaba, Quen, they are open source. So I feel that it has to be a competition between closed source as well as open source, and having many models is actually the right thing, right? So that we can pick and choose. In this marketplace, there is a battle going on, right? And the user, the end user benefits the most from this battle, right? Because they are competing so hard for this mind share, that it is a great thing for us. I feel that there should be as many companies as there can be, and hopefully many of them will be open source, and the open source community will benefit from it. But it's a good thing to have many different models. Having all this power in the hands of just a few companies, that is dangerous.
So can you describe from different angle for us, so why open source is so important in this era? So why we even need open source in the AI era?
Yeah, it is. I mean, think about the computing revolution. It was driven by Linux. Without Linux, we would be just, there would be Apple, there would be Microsoft, and we would not have this open source technology that is an alternative. So for things to, so think about it. Once the Netflix had a challenge called, Netflix challenge.
Yeah.
They were coming up with, who can create the best recommendation engine.
Oh.
And they open sourced some of the data, and that problem was solved in, I cannot remember exactly, but in a very short period of time, probably in a few days, the solution, open source solution, was better than their in-house solution. So think about it. Any big company, they have 40, 50 people working on a solution. If you make something open source, then you have tens of thousands of people who can improve the solution, right? So for example, all the development that happened in, even OpenAI, they would not have been successful if the transformer model was not open source, right?
Yeah.
So that publication made it possible for hundreds of thousands of people to understand, attention is all you need, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have that, then progress stalls, right? It is basically only in the hands of a few companies. So open source is crucial. It's not just, okay, it's good to have. It is absolutely needed if you want the whole world to contribute to this revolution.
Let me think about Android is another good example. There's so many Android users, and Android is open source.
Yeah, that's
So,
another great example.
Yeah. So what do you see as the single biggest threat to OpenCV mission over the next 10 years or 5 years? Is it a new technology or competitor or something else?
It's always, it's always non-technical, right? So for any open source effort, the main thing that can be devastating is the source of funding, right? So OpenCV is not funded by Intel or it is not funded by any company. It is a collection of companies that helps OpenCV, and that is always the biggest threat, and that is why we want to make sure that we have several sources of revenue, and even if something dries up, we always have alternative things, right? And the growth is also, right, for OpenCV's growth, the main thing is always limited by funding, right? Once we have good funding, it becomes smooth, right? And you know, technology will always change, and we will have to keep up with it. But again, if you have good funding, things will fall in place.
If you were designing Computer Vision 101 course for 2025, how would it be different from a course in 2015? What old topics would you cut, and what new ideas like transformers would you teach from day one?
Yeah, so first of all, in 2015, the right way to teach would be a collection. Let's say pick a specific thing, right? Let's say object detection. We would focus on you know, high cascades and then hog object detector, and then we will also talk about deep learning, because by 2015 deep learning was sufficiently, you know, it was not
they have
as
deep mind
fast.
in that time, yeah.
But if we were to teach it now for object detection, we will completely not worry about traditional computer vision methods. So there are certain methods that are completely obsolete. There is no reason, right? They are not faster, they are not more accurate, so they have no benefit, right? So we can leave them completely aside, and we would focus on deep learning, we would focus on transformers, and then generative AI, like diffusion models and so on and so forth. So big difference, right? But there are still many traditional computer vision methods that are still very useful. For example, feature-based methods for image alignment, those kinds of things, we would still teach them because, and so traditional computer vision methods, you know, what I have seen is also people who are trained only on deep learning, they throw a big hammer at every problem, right? They don't have the necessary background in traditional computer vision, and things that can be solved very easily. They will spend, you know, days, months trying to solve it using deep learning because that's the only thing they know, right? So I think a combination of traditional computer vision methods as well as deep learning is necessary, even though, you know, deep learning, convolutional neural networks, transformers, diffusion models, they are all very important now.
How do you see the AI SQL questions? What is OpenCV's role in this? To try to limit how certain tools are used, or do you believe your job is to provide neutral tools and leave the ethics to the developers?
Yeah, so OpenCV has a very small collection of models, right? Where we have trained the model and we have released it to the public. Most other things OpenCV does is tool building, and we simply cannot control, right? We build tools in good faith, right, that use these tools in good ways, but really we don't have any mechanism to make sure that people are not using it for bad purposes, right? People probably are using it for bad purposes, but that's not the mission of the library. That's basically beyond us, right? It's almost like if you are creating weapons, right, like knives, you can use it to cut vegetables, right? And who knows, people will use it for bad purposes also, but that's something beyond our control. When we build models, then we can control, you know, our models are not biased, etc. But that's a small portion of what OpenCV does.
So, in the AI era, from a leader side, what kind of people we want to hire? What skills is important in the next era?
So, are you asking for OpenCV or for AI in general?
I think AI in general more, because for OpenCV, I can guess your answer. Yeah.
So I feel that for AI in general, people, there are a ton of applications we receive where people do not have the fundamentals right. They know how to use the tools, but they don't have depth of knowledge, right? Which is very dangerous, right? People who are, so from the companies that I'm associated with, it is super important for us, for people to have a very strong foundation, right? And that is what we teach in our courses also. It is, you know, our courses don't take like 7 days to complete. They take 3-4 months to complete. So we recommend that you do at least 2 courses, one in traditional computer vision and the other in deep learning. So the whole course would take you like a year to complete, right? So that you have a very strong foundation. That's super important. And how to think about data, how to have statistical analysis when you look at the data, how do you analyze it? And also people who are ready to do boring work, right? So a lot of times people want to do only the interesting parts, right? Oh, they want to try out different models, but the main, when you're training a model, the main benefit comes from looking at the data, and it is tedious. It is very hard work, right? When you want to analyze what part of your model is not working on what kind of data, right? You go and analyze how your data is bad, in which, how is the annotation done. So this is all grunt work in the sense that it is not very interesting work, but that is what produces the best models. So we want to make sure that people who are motivated, the motivation should be to produce the best model, right? Not to do the most interesting work, right? It may be interesting, but sometimes it may not be interesting. You should be willing to do things which are not very interesting, but very important, right? To make a good model. So that is the kind of people we want, very strong foundation, and people who are willing to do the dirty work of making very good models.
Yeah, you have once said that you like the talents that have strong willing to learn. You prefer the new guys than the experienced professionals. So why is that? Like we know there's famous news these days, like Meta have spent billions of money to hire OpenAI professional.
Yeah.
So why you think you prefer to cultivate talents rather than compete for experienced professionals?
First of all, we simply cannot compete with that kind of talent, right? OpenAI, Meta is paying like 100 million, right, for a single year, 1 year. That 100 million, that's insane amount of money, right? So open source cannot compete in that realm. So we want to attract people who are mission driven, right? They want to do something important, right? Not just money driven, because that game we will lose anytime, right? So a lot of people who are contributing to OpenCV, it's not even their full-time job, right? They have other jobs, and then they are working nights and weekends to contribute to the OpenCV library, right? So for us, it is important that people have that passion, they have that sense of mission, and that's what we look for.
Okay, so the last question, when you look past all the code and algorithm, what is the automatic impact you hope OpenCV has on people's lives? So 20 years from now or 10 years from now, what story do you want people to tell about this project?
So we want to tell stories about how OpenCV improved people's lives, right? Like I said, that the autonomous driving revolution was enabled by OpenCV. Stanley, which was the first autonomous car that completed the DARPA Grand Challenge, it traveled 132 miles in the Mojave Desert in 2005, and that caught the attention of Larry Page from Google, that, autonomous driving is now possible, and then he started investing in it, right? So that is the kind of impact we want. Then there was this Mars mission recently, where OpenCV was used for in the Mars helicopter, and they have recognized us publicly. And then there are other space missions, etc., where OpenCV has been crucial. So when the story is written, we want to be the enablers, right, of technology, right? We are the people who are sitting in behind the scene, right? Yeah. We are not necessarily getting all the glory, but it doesn't matter, right? We know that 90% of the computer vision systems in the world have some OpenCV in it, and that gives us a lot of pleasure, right? That's true. It could be saving lives and devices, medical devices. It could be going to space. It could be in autonomous driving. We know our code is there, even though we don't get a direct,
water and electricity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So thanks for your time, Satya, and please subscribe our channel, GoSim Foundation and OpenAGF Forum. And for OpenCV, what can we focus on?
Yeah, please visit our website, opencv.org, and you will find all the resources there. If you're interested in an AI career, please visit opencv.org/university. And yeah, if you can contribute to OpenCV in any way, either code or money or anything, we welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you.